Yes, I do. I like Glasgow. I like Edinburgh very much, and I'm very happy with the people in Edinburgh. And I do not understand why some people say that Glasgow is a friendlier place than Edinburgh. Well, it may be, but I like Edinburgh and I like the courtesy of the folk there. But having said that, I'm a Glaswegian. I was born and bred in Glasgow, and I love Glasgow. I love the ordinary language of the people. I hate the Glasgow slang. I don't like it at all for the simple reason that it's inarticulate and not pleasant and very often rude. I think every big city in the UK has an unfortunate slang. I hate the Glasgow slang, but I like the ordinary language with people, and that's what we get from Glaswegians. Glaswegians don't always speak frightfully BBC English, and there's not too many of them speak horrible Glasgow slang. You know what I mean, Jimmy? By the way, I hate it. But most Glasgow people speak the language of the people with a wee flavour of the good Scots tongue, which I love, and I have a passion for the Scots language. I like to see and move about in the bustle in Southall Street and Buchanan Street. That's Glasgow for me. It's so busy and so interesting. And when I see people, tourists looking at a map, I always go forward and say, hello, excuse me, can I help you? And more often than not, they say, yes, we're looking for the consul. I said, right, and there it is. Where are you from? I'm from China. Oh, very good. Well, welcome to Scotland. Have a happy day. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So that gives me a great joy in my heart. Yes, I like the city centre. Yes, indeed. Yes, our crew brought, immediately after the war finished, our air crew brought a lot of ex-prisoners of war back to the UK, and they were so quiet, and their clothes were stinking, but they were smiling. And when we got to the White Cliffs of Dover, they were just so happy. But it was harrowing, very harrowing. But they were friendly and kind to us. Yes, indeed, it was harrowing, yes. And something I'll never forget. Yeah. When I was a very young man, or rather when I was in primary school, I loved to read. Any time the teacher said, who's going to read this? I would say, me miss, me miss. So I think right from my early days, I was a bit of a ham actor. I had an audience. So I had an idea then that I would have a go at as the professional theatre. So I was a Wallisop air gunner for 5 years in the Royal Air Force, and during that time I honed my abilities and my joy and my expertise in acting. I did a lot of producing and writing and acting in plays and concert parties, and that was great. And when I came out of the Air Force, for a few years only, I was a professional actor in the Citizen Theatre in the time of John Kearney and Duncan McRae, Fulton Mackay, Rodney McMillan, people like that, and it was a great joy. I was only a professional actor for a few years, but I enjoyed it. But it wasn't the life for me. And my wife, I've been a widower for 30 years. My darling wife was not very enchanted with the so-called glamour of the theatre, so I packed it up. But I learned a lot. I learned how to present myself. I learned how to project my voice using a diaphragm, so it was well worthwhile. So that was my theatre career. It all started when I went to see the Alec McCowan, the famous English Shakespearean actor, at the Edinburgh Festival. I've always had a notion for one man or one woman performances. And McCowan, he was absolutely riveting. He had memorized the whole of Mark's Gospel in the authorized version. And I was greatly impressed. So it's a pretty long story, this. I decided to do something similar. So over a period of 2 years, I combined the 4 Gospels into one single story, and I memorised it as a play. And I took my play to churches, theatres, schools all over Scotland, prisons, etc., 2 tours of Canada, 1 of New York State. And it was a great joy for me to witness for the Lord in that fashion. And then I couldn't believe that Church of Scotland said they wanted to publish it. So they published a Scots Gospel, and that went very well. And then something most unusual happened. They said, Jimmy, your Scots Gospel's good, but would you not think of doing something a bit more accessible? How about the Glasgow Gospel? Well, I hesitated. But anyway, when I did a lot of praying and did a lot of study, and in 1992 I produced the Glasgow Gospel. Well, it went to #1 in the Scottish bestsellers. It sold about 500,000 copies worldwide. It's now into 17th reprint. Does God not work in amazing ways? Tell you one wee story. I worked with in social work for about 10 years, and I remember one time for a few years I worked in Larchgrove Assessment Centre in Edinburgh Road. And I remember I worked with boys from 12 years of age to 17 years of age who had lost the place, who would probably end up in Berlin, and some of them were glue sniffing and pinching ladies' handbags and just getting into trouble. And they were difficult. They weren't round the bend, but they were difficult. And they lost their temper frequently. I remember one big fellow, Big Charlie, who was about 16 years of age, and he was in a bad mood because he wasn't getting home for the weekend because he had been unruly. So they called me Old Jimmy because I was the oldest social worker there. And this particular Saturday, he lost the place completely. And he went outside into the yard and picked up stones and started smashing all the windows. So the staff were looking out, wondering what on earth to do. So, like Jimmy Cagney or some of the Hollywood brave film stars, I went out to try and calm him down. And the staff, they were on edge. And Charlie picked up a big iron chain and started swinging it. He said, "Don't come near, old Jimmy, don't come near, don't come near, I'll hit you with this." So I went nearer and nearer and nearer. And eventually the chain hit me just a wee bit on the shoulder. It didn't worry me and it didn't hurt me. But immediately, as a ham actor, I started weeping. So, and immediately Charlie dropped the chain, put his arm around me and started crying too, and the two of us went into the room together, bawling like wains. And then we got 2 or 3 minutes later, we were playing table tennis and drinking Coca-Cola. I may speak with the tongues of men and even of angels, but if I have nae love in my heart, I'm just a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. I may have the gift of prophecy and ken all but life's mysteries. I may have faith strong enough to shift mountains, but without love in my heart, I am nothing. I may dole out all that I possess and even give up my body to the flames, but if I have nae love in my heart, I'm nae the better of it. Love is patient and kind. It isn't eye grasping. It doesn't blow its own trumpet. Love has good manners and isn't hard with selfish traits. It isn't touchy. Love doesn't gloat or other folks' sins, but rejoices with the truth. Love kens nae limit to its endurance, nae end to its trust, nae fade nor its hope. It will exist for all eternity. Love will not fail. Do we have prophets? Their day will be ours. Are we carried well with tongues? They will cease. Is there knowledge? It will vanish away. For we ken now in part, and we prophesy in part. But when perfection comes, the partial will finish. When I was a bairn, I had the speech of a bairn, the mind of a bairn, and the thoughts of a bairn. But now that I'm grown to manhood, I've put away all bairn-like things. For just now, we can see and hear just a wee bit about God. But one day, we will see him in all his glory. Aye, face to face. I ken now in part, but one day I shall ken it all, even as God sees into my heart right now. There are three things that bide forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of the three is love. Amen. God has blessed me in so many ways. I had a happy 30 years of marriage. I've got 2 daughters, 4 granddaughters, 1 great-granddaughter, and 1 great-grandson. And I believe, no, that's not true. I know that when my darling wife died, I asked God to give me strength to come through my bereavement, and he answered my prayer. I've been given strength. One of my old ministers used to say to me, Jimmy, if life is good for you, don't say that you're lucky or that you're fortunate. Say that you're blessed. Well, I've been blessed in so many ways. I'm a happy man. I'm never lonely. I live on my own, but I'm never lonely. I talk to God, he talks to me. We've got a great sense of humour together, and I'm a happy man.